Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 187, featuring the top 5 mediocre episodes. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse, and I'm the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight I can guarantee you one thing. Tonight's episode is going to be anything but mediocre, because tonight we are breaking down the top 5 mediocre episodes in Star Trek history, and nothing is better. I tell you, nothing is better than a classic mediocre episode of Star Trek, and we have a very stellar, very non-mediocre L-Cars panel ready to take on this topic tonight. First up, joining us for the 26th time, he is a man of limitless accomplishments and unbridled modesty. I can safely say that to know him is to love him, and to love him is to know him. Those who know him love him, while those who do not know him love him from afar. Okay, I'm finished. It's the host of Weekly Trek, Mr. Alex Perry.
Boy, that is one mediocre episode of Star Trek.
That is a mediocre episode of Star Trek. That's why I used it.
I am thrilled to be here, as always.
It could come up. The Schizoid Man could come up tonight. Who knows? And our second guest tonight, one of our favorites, returning for her 7th TrekRanks mission from Toronto Core. It's the great Static Warp Bubble, Dana Kenedy. Welcome back, Dana.
Hello, nice to be on here again.
Awesome to have you back. And finally, the guest trifecta tonight keeps us in the Toronto Core. We are joined by Commodore Matt Finbow, a.k.a. Mr. Static Warp Bubble. Welcome back, Mr. Matt.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome to have you back on. Your last show, we were just talking about Scenes on a Cliff. One of my all-time favorite.
What a great topic that was. Oh, my gosh.
A classic. All right, that was episode 114, people. Check it out. All right, let's do it. TrekRanks recalibration now.
You can recalibrate the regulators now.
Will do.
Okay, the TrekRanks charter has 2 clauses. We rank Trek so we can have a fun conversation about Star Trek. And 2, the ranks don't matter. We use them as a framework to have a deep dive conversation about all the things we love about Star Trek. Because as Mr. Spock himself has said, our show is all about
infinite diversity in infinite combinations, symbolizing the elements that create truth and beauty.
There are no wrong answers at TrekRanks. This show's about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all, from TOS to TNG, straight through the Enterprise and the Kelvin timeline, and Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Short Treks, Lower Decks, and Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder, this episode of TrekRanks is current now through the 5th and final season of Star Trek Discovery, which means 913 total episodes of Star Trek across the past 58 years. And one final reminder, we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well. Are there any mediocre Star Trek films? Oh, we'll find out tonight.
Hailing frequencies open.
Thank you, Mr. Worf. You can hail me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise and Extra, and on Blue Sky at TrekRanks. And you can see our extensive rankings of all the Treks at TrekRanks.com. And don't forget to call and leave us a message with your own picks at 757-828-7265. That's 757-828-RANK. Okay, to wrap it up, Alex, Dana, and Matt, let everyone know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Alex.
I'm on Twitter at Alexander T. Perry, at Alex T. Perry everywhere else, and my Star Trek news podcast, Weekly Trek, is at Weekly Trek.
Weekly Trek. Dana, how about you?
All right, I'm Static Warp Bubble on Twitter with no E, and Static Warp Bubble on Tumblr with dashes in between the words.
And Matt, how about you? They might be Matt.
You can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, it's Twitter, at They Might Be Geek, where you can find me talking about all kinds of sci-fi pop culture things and just kind of latest world events and whatever I feel like chatting about.
And cars sometimes.
I'm a big gearhead.
Okay, we're going to skip our diagnostic cycle this week because we know what mediocre means. And we're going to jump straight into our prime directives.
Do they know about Prime Directive? They know everything I know, sir.
Okay, before we get into how everyone defined their take on mediocre and made their picks, I do want to update everyone on one little bonus thing we're going to do for this episode. At least I'm going to try and do it. We're going to figure this out. So the panel's just finding this out now, and I'm kind of figuring it out as we go. So, but for everyone's picks, I'm going to do a quick heat check on whether or not everyone thinks the episode is too good to be considered mediocre, maybe not good enough to be considered mediocre, or maybe it squeezes right into that Goldilocks zone of mediocre where it's the perfect fit for mediocre. So we're going to just get some instant responses, and we're going to track each pick here on where it falls into this mediocre zone, just to see if there's going to be some shockers out there in any direction. Okay, I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but Alex, we're going to start with you. Break it down. How did you kind of attack mediocre?
Okay, so I first started off thinking about this, and I was like, I have no idea what universe of episodes I'm dealing with here. So I decided to seek a little outside help to objectively define what mediocre was, and therefore what my universe of episodes to choose from was. And so I decided that for me, mediocre meant an episode that was neither good nor bad, which means that if you ranked every episode of Star Trek, it would be the episodes that are right in the middle. And so with that piece of information in mind, I went to IMDb, I pulled up all the series, I looked at the way that IMDb users had ranked the episodes, and then I picked a selection of episodes right in the middle for each of the series. I did 10 episodes for TNG, DS9, Voyager. I did 5 episodes for TOS, Enterprise, and I did 3 episodes for the more recent shows that have less episodes to them. And that was my universe that I was picking from. I then excluded anything that was like a 2-parter, or surprisingly, there were a couple of series pilots that fell within my universe of episodes. I excluded those. And I went with, I picked 1 episode from 5 series that lived within that universe of IMDb rankings that were right in the middle of the rankings of the series.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I did think about that. And then I decided that right in the middle for Star Trek is not mediocre. So that's what.
Well, yeah. So it's like.
Because I decided no, right in the middle for Star Trek is still awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we do mine, lots of people are going to say, no, that's too good to be mediocre.
Oh,
I feel like a lot of them are too good to be mediocre. But going off of the prime directive I picked, which is neither good nor bad, like right on the average for that series.
Right on the average. I like
these are episodes that fall on that average.
Not to get too into the weeds, but like, because whenever I talk to like Bill Mann, who does his grades, when I look at like in the middle, like 75 or like 80 is right in the middle for like Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
Those are still A's for me. When I'm looking at
they're still pretty good episodes.
Like my A's start at about like 8. My B's start like at like 83.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't do mediocre. Anyway,
yeah,
I love this. That's good.
And like to take so one thing I really wanted to find, because then I was like, well, like taking it from the middle of each series is also not fair, because some series are better than others. Yeah, and exactly. So you're like your average episode of, let's say, Deep Space Nine is a better episode than, let's say, your average episode of a series that you like less. And so if I'd had more time, I would have integrated the IMDb rankings all together to create the full list, and then gone directly to the middle of that list of all episodes, because it would have sort of accounted for series quality a little bit more, but I didn't have time for that, so we just went with what we went with.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, last thing. I'm glad you didn't use TrekRanks rankings, because like literally 10 minutes before we started recording, I changed all my Voyager rankings because I looked at one and was like, wait, I'm using that episode and it's ranked too high, so I have to lower it.
Jim,
So,
I'll be
the
100%
ranks
candid.
don't matter.
I did go to TrekRanks first, and then I was like, no, let's
this
suck
is
it up to
shit.
the boss.
This is shit. Okay, we're enough of this. Dana, how about you? How did you break this down?
So the first thing I did was I went to the Trek rankings, but then I disagreed with some of the ones that were at the very bottom.
Good.
So I went to the IMDb rankings.
And you disagreed more.
In a way, but I said I can't choose any that are kind of within the top 30-ish of the rankings in IMDb. I was less kind of strict about picking ones that were in the bottom. So one of mine is actually very close to the bottom. But I also looked at mediocre relative to specific factors. So in a theme. So if you have time travel episodes, it might be a great episode overall in Star Trek, but a mediocre episode relative to the other time travel episodes. So I kind of have a double.
I like that.
Double prime directive here.
I like that. So that's going to play into your overall pick.
Yes. So I do think some of mine are too good, and I didn't do that for all of them, but
that's a good way to tweak it, though. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, this is excellent. Remember, people, the ranks don't matter. Matt, how about you?
Well, this is a surprise to me, but it turns out my methodology sort of fell almost halfway in between Alex's and Dana's. So I also went to IMDb first. I wasn't as, sort of studious as what Alex did. A lot of it was kind of just vibes for me. I went down through lists of episodes from every season of every series. And yeah, a lot of it was kind of just vibes, like what kind of felt like a mediocre episode for me. And this was the most difficult topic. Like, I started getting caught in like this like weird catch-22 where I was like, if it's a top 5 of anything, is it still mediocre? I started short circuiting trying to think of these. And then towards the Dana side of things, some of my picks were actually influenced by, again, like what categories of episodes they fell into. Like, I won't say anything specific, but like, yeah, is it better than another type of this type of episode? It's not as good as another type of this type of episode. It kind of falls in the middle. And some of them were also influenced by episodes that fell around them in specific seasons, where it was like an episode that might not, otherwise be considered too bad, but it was one episode before or after this absolutely amazing episode that everyone loves and everyone remembers, and it kind of like
tainted it.
It's got a little bit of it's got a little bit of mediocrity tainting just because of its proximity to something that is more universally beloved.
Yeah, understood. All right, well, that's similar to mine. So, because I started looking at ranks and just threw it all out the window, and ultimately I just decided, as I was looking at it, this is funny. So, and some spoilers here. I decided I could not pick any new era episodes, and honestly I decided I couldn't pick any TOS episodes either. I just felt like TOS, I'm such a huge old school sci-fi fan that TOS for me it's never mediocre. It's either like it's all this incredible style and vibe. Some of them are bad, some of them are classics, but none of it's mediocre. I just love it. And with the new episodes, I feel like mediocre with the new episodes, meaning everything since Discovery, I feel like mediocre kind of falls in the same category as filler episodes for me, a little bit in my head, where I'm like, there's not a lot of middle ground. So it's like most of the episodes are either massive swings and sometimes they hit and sometimes they miss. But I don't really feel like there's a lot of mediocre. So spoiler alert, all of my picks are from the Berman era sweet spot of TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. And I'll add this, as I got into it, I even eliminated Enterprise. Season 3 and Season 4 of Enterprise, I think the serialized part of it just eliminated. And then Season 1, 2, as I looked at it. So it's all mediocre 90s era Trek for me tonight. So it's, I'm pretty narrow tonight for once. All right. That was a long Prime Directive, but I love it because this is a really interesting, unique topic. And don't forget, this is a celebration of mediocre tonight. All right, third Ramadan, introduce us to the order of things.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Okay, thank you, third Ramadan. As always, everyone's going to start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their picks. Then we're each going to reveal our mediocre episode and the reasons we're highlighting it. And after getting through 5 rounds of picks, we'll get into some secondary systems. And if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. All right, Alex, we're starting with you. What's your number 5 pick for your top 5 mediocre episodes?
5-word summary: Wayward crew finally meets Starfleet. Hashtag the Star Trek is here, baby. This is Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Episode 11, Asylum.
That's so perfect, actually.
Yeah. So this episode, first of all, like the average, like dead on middle of the road, according to IMDb rankings, episode of Star Trek Prodigy. We have 20 episodes to choose from so far. It's a setup episode, right? So like, you know, obviously things happen, but also not a lot happens, right? They arrive at a Starfleet outpost and they kind of destroy it in the process. But it's a lot of setup, it's a lot of exposition. But I actually really like it because it's this moment in which the crew has arrived at Starfleet finally. You know, by the end of the episode, they're like, okay, we have to keep as far away from them as possible, but that's not their fault. And it's like where a moral star is the sort of like large culmination of the first the first 10 episodes of the first season. This is sort of like the denouement of that then sets up this second act of the first season. And yeah, you know, it's I really like it because it you know, it's like ooh, now we're in the sort of like the Starfleet vibes, right? Like you arrive on a Starfleet station and yeah, there's kind of a weird Starfleet officer there, but yeah, he's still a Starfleet officer, and now you're starting to get a bit of the Admiral Janeway stuff. And yeah, so Asylum, Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Episode 11.
I think it's a great pick. It feels like right down the middle of Prodigy. You get the Denobulan guy who's cool. And you get a little bit of the backstory of Dal, right? Dal, they find out he's unique, right?
Yep.
They do the scan, they find out he's unique.
Melanoid slime worm.
That's right, melanoid slime worm. And did we find out? Do they learn that the ship has this power where it's going to destroy every?
This is where they all learn that it has the power.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, this is where they figure
Gwyn knows it in A Moral Star, and then it's erased from her memory.
Yeah,
and this is where everybody else learns.
Cool. I love this. Dana, what's your take?
This is a good literal pick, I think, because it's like right in the middle of the season story. So it's a good bridging between the first half and the second half and the push for the next part of the story. So it's a good episode, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Like the buildup is good, but then the payoff is also good.
I love it. I'm looking at my ranks. This is number 13 of my ranks. And it's really the cusp of like below this is where I like the episodes aren't my favorite below this. And then above it, I really like all the episodes. It's amazing. Mediocre. This is fun.
Mediocre. Middle of the road.
Matt, what's your take?
Yeah, I largely agree with what everyone said. I've had really good feelings about the first season of Prodigy. I loved it. I do think there were some episodes that stood out more than others, and yeah, I think this one would fall right about in the middle. So yeah, excellent,
okay.
Excellent.
All right, I feel like we're in the Goldilocks zone on this one. It feels unanimous. Okay, Dana, what is your number 5 pick?
So this one I think is going to be too good, but 5 words: Captain Troy on the bridge and hashtag executive officer of radishes. So the IMDb rank for this one is 47, which is pretty high, especially in Next Gen. But this is one of my favorite episodes. I picked it because it's kind of standing still in a sense, where there's no big like emotional like thing and there's no big space battle. It's just like a bunch of characters stuck together figuring it out, and it's just a really good character episode. You have this good dynamic between O'Brien and Ro, and then you have Troy in charge on the ship, which is always good to see. I like the scenes between Riker and Data, and then Worf and Keiko and Crusher and Geordi. They're all paired up so perfectly, but it's also not as impactful as like, All Good Things or whatever. But it's a really good episode, but it's also not the best episode. But it's also too good, I think.
I love it. I love it. Did you say, I don't think you said the word disaster, but you said radishes, so everyone knows.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Everyone knows what episode this is because you said radishes. So
I planted radishes in the special dirt, and they came up all weird.
I see. That's very, very commendable.
I love that you know this episode's too good. Because this is a classic. I love it, but I love your reasoning too. Alex, what's your take?
Love it. Love disaster. Love disaster. It's so funny. I was sort of thinking about it as Dana, as you were speaking about how it's a very big episode, but it's told in just this series of very small stories.
Right.
Like it's a couple of people in a room, but it's different people in different rooms having different conversations and facing different challenges. And each of their individual challenges are both big and small, right? Like Keiko needs to deliver a baby. Riker and Data need to get through an electrical fault. Picard needs to shepherd these kids, with a death-defying falling turbolift. Like, they're both big and small stories. They're big and small stakes at the same time. And I love episodes that are exclusively set on the ship with the sets. And this is one of those.
All standing still. I like the way you said that. Matt, what's your take?
I would definitely say that this episode is too good, at least for me. This is one of my favorite episodes, and I like the quieter, more character-centric episodes of that era, the Berman era. I really love all of the character moments in the episode Disaster. Everyone is kind of paired up with with like an odd couple pairing, Worf and Keiko and Picard and the children. And so I think I would personally rank this episode higher, but no, I can see all the reasoning that went into it. So yeah, well done, Dana.
And Matt and I, we didn't share our lists together, so this is a surprise.
I figured that. I'm loving this topic too, but also Disaster is not going to be on anybody's. It's not on. I mean, it might be on. I guess it could be on somebody's top. No, it's not on too many people's top 10 list. Great pick. Okay, awesome pick. Okay, Matt, what's your first choice?
Okay, my first choice. I think I might have the opposite problem of Dana, where this episode might be ranked a little bit too low for it to be
we might mediocre. Let's see if we end up with too low here.
All right, so I have to do my hashtag first in order for this to work. So hashtag we look for things. 5 words, things that make us go. And the episode is The Samaritan Snare, TNG Season 2, Episode 17.
I think I feel like this is a Goldilocks area for me. Yeah.
Classic mediocre episode.
Yeah, it's classic.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime you get the Crimson Force field in play, man, you are mediocre. All right, go, Matt.
Yeah. Well, so this episode kind of was mediocre for me because I really enjoyed about 50% of it, and I not so much enjoyed the other 50%, and it's split pretty much down the middle.
I love this because I have no idea which 50% you enjoyed.
Oh,
that shows you how mediocre it is. I'm sitting here going, I have no idea which part you enjoyed more. I'm assuming you enjoyed the Wesley and Picard part more.
You would be correct. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it's basically it's right down the middle, A plot versus B plot, and I'm actually not quite sure what constitutes the A plot and the B plot in this episode because they kind of share equal weight.
I have no idea either. I mean, I'm assuming. I gotta think the Packlids are the A plot, right?
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought as well. I was wavering back and forth, but the Packlids are the A plot, and I compared to some other TNG antagonists, I didn't find the Packlids, either particularly funny or particularly compelling as a villain. There were some famously some some early season TNG swings and misses with trying to set up some unique villains that would make it stand apart from the TOS era.
No, too late.
We are fired. They will be destroyed.
They used their Crimson Force Field.
It did not shoot.
No, the Crimson Force Field has disarmed us.
They are smart.
We are not strong.
But yeah, it was the whole plot with Picard and Wesley sharing the shuttlecraft ride together to the starbase, where that I found super compelling about this episode, where Picard's kind of, he's opening up to Wesley a little bit. Wesley is kind of doing the same, sharing some of his insecurities about going to the academy and taking the exams. And I just felt that whole aspect of the episode was very heartwarming and very compelling to me. But I want to say this because apologies, I forget who on Twitter pointed this out. I will never be able to remember who, but somebody said once that it was very clear that the writers were setting up that it was going to be revealed that Wesley was Picard's love child with Crusher, and they never ended up doing it, and they dropped that. But this episode, I think it's very clear that that's what their intention was, because there's that whole thing where Wesley is like, you would have made a good father. Why did you never have kids? And Picard kind of looks at him with this, knowing glance. And as soon as that person on Twitter pointed it out, I can't unsee it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's absolutely what they were going to do. But they didn't do it officially in canon.
Scandalous. I guess it's probably true. I don't know how locked and loaded that was when they were writing it. I feel like it was probably pretty open-ended. But listen, I feel like this is a perfect mediocre episode. It's right in the middle. I mean, Packlids do have quite a shelf life now, especially with Lower Decks and what Mike McMahon did with them, and the Picard stuff and the Wesley stuff also has legs. There's a lot that's come out of this episode. So,
and I just have one further note here. It just says Ensign Sonia Gomez.
Wait, she's in this one too? Yeah, that's right. She's in this one too.
Yep.
Oh,
and I wish
she also went up on Lower Decks. So that's great.
Also reappeared on Lower Decks. Exactly. Yeah. There's so many connections.
A lot of seeds planted in Samaritan Snare. I love it. Alex, Crimson Force Field, go.
I think Sir Patrick Stewart's sandwich eating acting is very good.
It is very good. It is very good. It's very dainty. Dana, what's your take on Samaritan
Snare? This is textbook mediocre. It really does feel like two separate episodes. The two stories don't really mesh. Right. But my favorite part of the episode is when Geordi is talking to Worf and he's saying, "You will never attain the 24th level of awareness." So I enjoyed that.
It's like Scientology.
That is, oh God, it really is. I will give my favorite part of this episode. I will give credit because I'm not a huge Pulaski fan. I do like when Pulaski comes in and saves the day on Picard.
That's fantastic.
That's my highlight for all Pulaski stuff. So.
Oh yeah, cool. This was a top tier Pulaski episode for me.
For sure. Okay, round 5. Let's close it off with my pick. 5 words and a hashtag. Dax ain't going anywhere, dude. Hashtag Varad is such a loser. And this is Deep Space Nine Season 2, Episode 4, Invasive Procedures. And I don't know. This episode to me it's really interesting because it's a little mean-spirited, this episode.
Quark should have gone to jail for a very long time.
Right. So Quark, that's one of the issues, right? Quark storyline's a little off the mark. He really should have been incarcerated for his crimes.
For facilitating attempted murder.
Takeover, yeah, and all these things, yep. And all the stuff around Dax is really sad. So it's kind of hard to watch. And by the way, this is like the beginning of season 2. So we don't know a lot about Trill and their society. And Equilibrium's still a year away, and Equilibrium was a fantastic episode. We learned so much about Duran and how things work. We never really see Dax again. You get Megan Gallagher, the guest performance is fantastic. John Glover, who's a pretty well-known character actor, his performance is not the best. To Robert Hewitt Wolf's script, I just find this one's like right in the middle, right? It's just like one of those kind of mid-tier episodes that it's kind of well known. There's some really good visual effects with the storm and the station, and there's some good fight scenes, and there's some interesting stuff happening. Just find it to be really mediocre, and it's and I do end up watching it a lot. It's one I put on when I know I don't need to really pay attention, and I can just kind of have it on. So, and Tim Russ is in it, and Steve Rankin, who I'm going to mention later, plays one of the Klingons. So I'm curious, where do we think, is this one mediocre? Am I in the Goldilocks zone? Is it too high, too low? Alec, what's your take?
Oh, this is in the Goldilocks zone. This is classic mediocre. There's like just enough to like about it for it to be one that I think it's one where you hit it on the rewatch and you're not excited about it, but you're not like, oh, I can't believe I have to watch this freaking episode, right? Like, oh, I'm stealing myself for the next 45 minutes. You're like, okay, it's invasive procedures. Here we go, right? Like, yeah.
Dana, what's your take?
Yeah, this one's kind of Deep Space Nine before they found their kind of
It's right around the point where they find it's right before they find their footing.
Yeah, it's just kind of, they were trying some stuff and they didn't quite know what they were good at just yet, but it's not a terrible episode, but it's one that when rewatching it, you're like, okay, and maybe I'll half pay attention sometimes, but it's not terrible episode, but it's also not one that I'm like, yeah.
The truth is they found their footing in like the 5 episodes before this. And then this was a little bit of a step back, like the Circle trilogy and Duet.
Right, yes.
And they had found it, and then this one was like, oh yeah, this is a little bit of a.
It's almost like this was a season 1 holdover.
Right.
It wasn't, but
it definitely feels like that.
Yeah. Matt, any quick thoughts?
This episode is a difficult watch for me. I think you said it feels a little bit mean-spirited, and I would fully describe it as mediocre. I don't like I don't like watching what happens to Dax in this episode. It would be one that I wouldn't skip it, but I would kind of half watch it, have it on in the background while I'm doing something else. But it needs to be in your rewatch still. But mediocre.
Round 5 of our celebration of mediocre in the books. Let's go to round 4. Alex, what do you got? I'm reminding ourselves that we're celebrating mediocre.
Yes.
So let's keep going.
This one's all celebration, baby. 5 words. Janeway's encounter with childhood hero # truck floating in space.
Yes.
This is Star Trek Voyager Season 2, Episode 1, The 37s.
Oh, this one might be too good. We're gonna. I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a vote on this one.
So again, it hits right in the middle of the Voyager rankings.
Okay.
And it's one where, like, it's a set of conceits, right? Like, or it's a set of cool ideas where someone was like, what happens if Voyager discovers a 1930s truck floating in space? Which is just the most absolutely improbable thing, even with all of the, like, ways that they try and explain it away. It's just like, this is nonsense, but it creates a cool scene in which they're wandering around a truck going, how did a truck get here to the Delta Quadrant? And then it's like, what if Captain Janeway, the first female, series lead of a Star Trek show, met Amelia Earhart? And, well, what if there was some other people? And what if there were human descendants, right? Like, does it all hold together perfectly? Like, if you just sort of like submit to it and go along for the ride, it's a wonderful experience. And I love this episode. But like, is it Voyager's best? No. Is it average Voyager? Yeah, it's average Voyager, which makes it, for my prime directive, top 5 mediocre.
Okay, I love this. All right, we need a vote. I'm saying this episode's too good. Dana, what's your vote?
I think so too, because I was thinking of this episode and I discounted it for being too good.
All right, we got a too good. Matt, what's your take on this?
Sorry, Alex. I also think this episode is too good. This is one of the episodes of early Voyager that I remember the most and the most fondly. I wouldn't call it Voyager's best. I would definitely say it's a above average Voyager. And I also had a problem like Dana had, where there were so many episodes where I was going through them. I was like initially thinking that it was a mediocre episode, and then I started watching it and I go, oh no, this is actually way too good. I can't pick this. That happened I can't count how many times that happened.
By the way, you do not need to apologize for there's no condemnation for somebody picking something too good. This is TrekRanks. This is spectacular.
I know. I'm Canadian. Apologies are in my DNA.
Fantastic. I love 37. I mean, 37 is.
I'll tell you also on my list of episodes, like, you know, the 10 that I culled from the middle of the pack, the one that I was like, no, this is way too good. You can't possibly be where it is on the list, and I'm definitely not picking this, was Bride of Chaotica. So I could have come in here with Bride of Chaotica, an episode that, like, after Star Trek 2009 is probably like one of the most picked episodes on TrekRanks.
Yeah, well, that's a no-brainer. Well, I was going to look up how many times it's been picked. It's actually been picked 5 times. Popular episode. Anyway, it's a classic. I love that. I can see it totally being ranked mid-tier in the way your Prime Directives broken down. So I love it. Okay, let's go to Dana's second pick. That's obviously going to be way too good. Go, Dana.
Yep. Okay, so 5 words: activate the emergency command hologram. Hashtag not the Stargate episode. And it's Voyager's episode Workforce, which I always found was very similar to SG-1's episode Beneath the Surface.
Oh, fantastic. I thought this would be Tinker Tenor, and I was going to say, obviously, too good. Workforce is a little bit more controversial. That one's more mid-level, so we'll have to take a vote.
53 and 55 on IMDb, so it's like on the upper end, but
that's definitely right about where mine. That's right about where it is on TrekRanks too.
So I picked it because compared to the other 2-parters on Voyager, this one is kind of like okay compared to, like, you know, Killing Game or the one where they go back in time and the pilot. So for me, I enjoy this one, but it's also not one that's like my absolute favorite episode. But I put it on every once in a while. It's a good, like, kind of interesting story to see kind of the crew with like amnesia and not really knowing who they are, but still retaining a lot of their qualities. And it's a nice kind of refresher to see these characters like do different things in the same way, if that makes sense. Right. And to see Janeway kind of have this chance at happiness, but then she throws it away at the end because she's, I guess, abides by the rules of Starfleet.
I mean, she's obviously going to go back to her regular life, but man, it was tempting. Yeah. It was tempting to stay. I love Workforce, so I'm going to vote too good because I'm definitely. There's something about Workforce that's just soothing for me. It's a good comfort episode, but I'm curious, Alex, where are you on it?
I will also vote too good. Workforce holds a very special place for me, but it is definitely, like, you could make a very strong argument to say it is, if you were ranking the 2-parters for Voyager, that it would be at the bottom or second bottom. I think that and Flesh and Blood are probably the 2 in pole position for, you know, not the worst 2-parters, but like the bottom of the 2-parter list. But like the thing that for me, you know, because I think the other thing about Workforce is it's the smallest stakes of the 2-parters, right? Like, yes, obviously there's the like one big stake, which is they've all forgotten who they are and they're working these menial jobs. And if they don't remember who they are, then they won't get to go back to being Voyager again. But really, the episode is a series of small stakes. Will Janeway have a successful relationship? Will Tom Paris learn how to be a good employee at the bar? Right? Like, you know, it's like most of at least part 1 and a large part of part 2 is about these character stories in these menial existences rather than sort of the like bigger overriding story that's taking place. Personally, I love that, right? Like I love Workforce personally for a number of reasons, but like it is definitely the smallest stakes of the two-parters, and you could make a case to say it's the worst two-parter that Voyager had to offer.
Yeah, it's similar to Killing Game because they have the same like, oh, we can't remember who we are, and I think Killing Game is the better of those because they are pretty comparable in that sense. But yes, it is one of my like comfort episodes, like you said, Jim.
Alex, Unimatrix Zero called. They would like the word.
No, see, I also like Unimatrix Zero is another one that's got like a special place in my heart. So
no, sorry, Unimatrix Zero is the worst two-parter in Voyager. And by the way, Flesh and Blood's my top 10 episode of Voyager. I love it. Okay, Matt,
I cannot stand Iden. I cannot stand him.
He's terrible, but it's a great episode. Matt, what's your take on Workforce?
I just love that we all have these like different takes on the same episodes. I love it. I love it. Workforce. I enjoy this episode. I don't consider it a standout. It's not one that I kind of return to, incredibly often. But whenever it's on, I enjoy watching it for for all the reasons that Dana mentioned. Seeing these characters kind of out of their normal elements, but kind of there's familiar aspects to what they're doing as well. It's a good concept, good execution, but there's other two-parters that I find more compelling. I love Killing Game.
Me too. All right, let's keep it rolling. Matt, what's your number 4 pick?
Okay, my number 4 pick, 5 words. The Song of the Sages and #capitalism ruins everything. It is Voyager's False Prophets, Season 3, Episode 3.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's hear it.
Well, I don't think anybody does Ferengi episodes as good as Deep Space Nine did them. So, when the Ferengi popped up when the Ferengi popped up on TNG, it was very often, highly cringeworthy, and trying to make them work in the context of Voyager, it didn't feel like to me like it rose to the level of what was achieved on Deep Space Nine. That being said, I thought it was neat that this episode serves as a sequel to the TNG episode The Price. That these two Ferengi were, we find out where they ended up after they fell through the wormhole. They wound up in the Delta Quadrant and ended up swindling this entire planet of people by pretending to be their prophesied gods. But, I don't know. I think overall it was a fine episode. Not a standout. It does contain 2 amazing character actors, Michael Ensign as the Bard, and Leslie Jordan from Will and Grace as one of the 2 Ferengi, and I thought that was hilarious. I think he's an inspired choice to play a Ferengi. I kept waiting for Megan Mullally to show up and like start laying into him. And my favorite part of this episode was it was really neat and fun to see Ethan Phillips playing Neelix playing the Grand Proxy.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, he did a fantastic performance. One of 3 times, I believe, he was played a Ferengi, or in this case, playing a Talaxi and playing a Ferengi. But because he showed up again in Ferengi makeup on Enterprise in Acquisition.
Yeah, that's right, he was. All right, well, I don't want to sway the jury. This is my first vote for not good enough to be mediocre. False Prophet's not one of my favorite episodes, so I know
that's all right.
Not normally what we do on TrekRanks, but I said we were going to do it. So, Alex Perry, where are you on False Prophets?
I'm with you, Jim. This one is worse than me.
Not good enough to be mediocre. Okay,
but it's a sequel to The Price, and the fact that Star Trek does a sequel to what's actually a pretty mediocre episode of TNG Season 3
is pretty shocking.
Pretty amazing.
It's amazing that The Price has a sequel. I mean, you know what has a sequel? It's the cool concept of the Barzan wormhole. That's what has a sequel.
Exactly.
Dana, anything to add on False Prophets?
Yeah, please don't divorce me, but not my favorite episode.
It's unanimous. Not good enough to be mediocre.
It's not my favorite episode either.
Okay. This is going
Wow,
so
Matt said
well.
that False Prophets was his favorite episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Wow,
Shocking.
amazing.
Absolutely.
I can't. You've kept this from me from all these years.
And you can quote me on that.
Oh, beautiful. All right, let's close out round 4. 5 words and a hashtag. We are doing an all Voyager round. Incredible. Round 4 is all Voyager. Here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. Idiot, watch what you're doing. Hashtag aggravated violent thought resulting in grave bodily harm. This is Voyager Season 4, Episode 10, Random Thoughts. It's a planet of telepaths where violent thought is outlawed. You can be charged and tried for just having a violent thought. And I kind of like this episode. Some interesting things going on with like incarceration, like Tuvok's kind of debating with the chief examiner Namira, who of course is Gwyneth Walsh, who is B'Etor. And there's a classic 90s era Trek episode marketplace with big geometric blocks and lots of drapes.
Odd fruit.
Still lots of weird fruit. And there's an actor, and this is going to be a theme of a couple of my picks. His name is Wayne, I don't know how to say it, Pere, and he plays a character Gil. And he was kind of unsettling. He's kind of the guy who's stealing B'Elanna's thoughts to kind of sell them on the underground market. And he says he's unsettling, but he wasn't really convincing. So there was a couple of places where this episode just kind of dipped for me. But it's also, I don't know, I don't mind watching it. It's a Kenneth Biller script. It's kind of some interesting ideas, and there's some cool stuff at the end where Tuvok kind of saves the day and goes underground and messes with this guy and does a mind meld, and it's kind of dark. So Random Thoughts, that's my pick. Alex, is it mediocre enough?
It is mediocre enough. It is mediocre. Gwyneth Walsh is great. Tim Russ stuff with her is pretty good. But overall, it's just like, it's not a fun watch at all.
No, it's not. That's kind
but
of
it's not like but it's not so unpleasant as to make it a bad episode. So yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It's a mediocre episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Why were you beating that man?
Dana, do you remember this one much?
I don't know.
Yeah, I like the concept of it. It's middle of the road kind of. It's there. It's there.
Yeah, I would agree. My favorite part of this episode was the Tuvok stuff, kind of infiltrating the underground crime ring of emotion stealers and thought thieves. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the thought thieves. That's definitely not Neelix getting his whiskers tugged. That's not your favorite part.
No,
that's not your favorite part. Okay. Just making sure. That's
the best part. In all
Any episode in which Neelix gets laid is a mediocre episode.
Oh man! All right, let's go do the soup round. Round 3. Alex, what's your number 3 pick?
I think I can handle some soup.
5-word summary: standing on the Enterprise hull. # Kansas tornadoes and puppies. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 6, True Q, which is, in my opinion, the worst Q episode of The Next Generation. I love Q, so that means I'd still like. I find myself watching this one a lot. It's kind of silly. It doesn't, like, the concept is interesting. The execution is not so great. Amanda is not so great. But John Delancey, Patrick Stewart's chemistry 100% carries this episode all the way through. There are some, really cool moments, like the moment where they're doing the hide and seek and they end up on the outside of the Enterprise standing on the hull. So like there's good stuff about this. I as I say, I really like it. I watch it probably, on the above average side for an episode of TNG. But it's certainly not the best Q episode of the series. And overall, in my opinion, a mediocre episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
This might be my toughest vote yet, but I'm gonna again, I want to sway the jury, so you guys don't let me. So I'm gonna say this one is too good. I like True Q. I think it really works. I think there's some real menace here from Q, where he's like, there's some darkness that is sometimes missing in some of these other episodes, where he's like, yeah, we're gonna kill her if she doesn't come with us, even though the tone's a little bit weird sometimes in this episode. But I'm gonna vote too good. I kind of like True Q a lot. Dana, what's your vote?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I think it's not good enough.
Oh, good. This is good. So Matt's going to be the deciding vote. We finally got the deciding vote.
Oh, no. This
Dana
is
not good enough. Oh, it might be a three-way tie. Maybe Matt's going to say mediocre. Matt, what's your vote? This is it. Let's go.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
No. Just do what's in your
gut.
What's in your TrekRanks gut?
Yeah, I think it's not good enough. I'm sorry.
Oh,
no,
not good enough.
Sorry again. Oops. Yeah, no, I'm with Alex. This is
no way. If you're with Alex, then it's mediocre.
Oh, if I'm with Alex, it's mediocre. Okay.
If you're with Dana, it's not good enough. If you're with me, it's too good. So what's your vote?
I was it's mediocre.
Okay, so Alex wins. It's mediocre.
Hey.
Alex wins. No, it's definitely I think it's my least favorite of the Q episodes of Next Gen, but just I love Q the character. I love him as a character, and I love John Delancey's performance of him. So any episode that he's in, I will watch, and I will enjoy to a fairly high degree.
Yes, that's well said. Classic. All right, always fun to have Alex on TrekRanks and kind of going a little low on Q. That's good. Okay, Dana, what's your number 3 pick?
All right, 5 words: Invasion of the Body Snatchers. # bad conduct discharge, and its observer effect from Enterprise. IMDb rank number 38. Now, this is a really good episode. So again,
it's so
good. You have just horrified Jim Moorhouse.
I know.
It's number 6 on my.
But my reasoning is season 4 is such a good season, and comparatively to all the other episodes, like all the 2-3 parters on there, this one isn't as high for me.
Well,
on
that's
that.
fair.
It's a really good episode, though.
This is what I was saying, that some of my
Yeah.
rankings are swayed by kind of what is around them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I think you guys think the 37s is really good, because it is around a bunch of really terrible episodes. If you put it in season 4, I don't think the opinion about it would be as high.
Oh, that's so funny. That's absolutely true. That's a good point. Sorry, keep going, Dan.
Oh yeah, so it just, again, it's about the character episodes for me. So there's really good scenes between Hoshi and Trip, which we don't get very often.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
just them talking, and we hear about Hoshi's past with her poker game, and I love when Phlox has a medical mystery that he has to solve, and it's just a really well done episode. But again, in season 4, I think there are better episodes. So if this was in season 2, it would be like top for me.
Fascinating reasoning, which I totally love for your Prime Directive. But this episode's so good. Oh my God, it's too good. It's one of my favorites. Definitely top 10 on the Enterprise list. Even with all those other big 2-parters around it, it's still top 10 for me. That final 10-15 minutes just moves me so much with Archer's speech when he convinces the Organians to change their ways. I just love it. Alex, what's your quick take?
Too good now. If you'd asked me that right after I'd watched the episode the first time, I would have said mediocre. I really didn't like this one for a long time.
Oh, interesting.
You turned me around on it, because listening to you talk about it and then me rewatching it, I went, oh yeah, this is actually really good. But the very first time I watched it, for some reason, it just didn't click with me, and I would have said, yes, this is a mediocre episode of Star Trek.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you came around. Matt, how about you?
Gotta be honest, it's been too long since I've seen this one for me to have a strong opinion on it. So I'm just going to say I agree with my wife.
Okay. Always
safe ground.
Wise. Always wise.
Good answer.
Okay, Matt, let's go to your soup round pick.
I'm a little bit scared to say this one, but I'm going to say it. Okay. 5 words, Trip and Malcolm's gay panic, and hashtag I went to Ryza and all I got was this lousy episode. 2 days and 2 nights, Enterprise Season 1, Episode 25.
This was this is on my list. This is spot on mediocre.
Very mediocre.
This is on my secondary system.
Okay, I was a little bit worried that people would think this was too good.
No. This is very much on my secondary systems.
Okay. Because I thought it was. I don't think it's a bad episode, but I don't think it's. So we've had Ryza episodes before in TNG and in Deep Space Nine. I don't think this is nearly silly or exciting enough for a Ryza episode.
If it was just about Hoshi, it would be way too good.
If it was just about Hoshi, but I think every plot thread in this episode is just a little bit too boring.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know, and I think Hoshi's plot was one that I liked the best. Second best. What I liked the best was Phlox's hibernation and them having to wake him up. That was good. That was hilarious. To sick bay. That was amazing. But Trip and Malcolm subplot is just really heavy with early 2000s queer phobia of them trying to figure out if the ladies they're hitting on are actually alien ladies. Or I thought it was for Archer I just thought his whole plot kind of fell flat for me. I thought it was way more entertaining watching Picard try to not have fun on Ryza than Archer in Captain's Holiday. Just the whole general vibe of the episode was just a bit slow and dull for me. I wouldn't call it bad though. I think it was pretty well written.
I think you've completely nailed it, and yet I love watching this episode.
Well, exactly,
it's so
and that's
funny.
Yeah, so, that's what's so interesting about this topic is because some of these.
It's truthfully, nothing you said is wrong, but I kind of really like watching this episode. Alex, any take?
Yeah, this is like if Workforce was worse, it would be 2 days and 2 nights, and then it would, for me, fall into the bullseye of being a mediocre episode, aka it's a series of smaller stories about characters just like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And like the overall, the sort of stakes are quite low, and it, doesn't necessarily all fit together in any sort of coherent or meaningful way. Like Workforce isn't that, because it then figures out how to fit everything together in a coherent and meaningful way. But if they'd not done that, then it would have been 2 days and 2 nights, and that's a mediocre episode of Star Trek.
Nice.
Yeah, I actually like this episode. It's just a nice kind of stop in their story. But the thing that Matt is saying, where it's just dull almost, is we spent like 5 episodes building up. Oh, we're going to Ryza, and then we gotta detail, and then we're going to Ryza. No, we can't, and then we get to Ryza, and then like, oh, okay.
Oh, all right.
So true.
Yeah.
And then this is what we get.
That's the payoff.
I've never thought about that, but that is absolutely true. Okay, well, this is my pick. Was going to be my number 1 pick for the longest time. Somehow I ended up dropping it down to 3. And now I'm glad I did, because your pick, Matt, features the actress Dae Young. And my pick features the actress Dae Young.
All right.
Here we go. 5 words in a hashtag. Most boring genetic augments ever. Hashtag Disaster Peace Society. And this is TNG Season 5, Episode 13, The Masterpiece Society. And it's ironic that this story and the way people look at this episode is basically mirrors the episode itself. It's this like perceived mix of genetic perfection that is going to elevate everything, that instead just kind of makes everything kind of flat and staid. And it's partially by design, but it's also partially just kind of becomes almost unavoidable byproduct of what they're doing in the biosphere and the way everybody is. And that's kind of what the episode is, because it just feels like it just doesn't really go anywhere. And but yet I kind of like it. I don't know. I kind of always enjoy watching the really slow pace on this. So I did some reading on this one to kind of figure out how this one kind of came to be. So Michael Pillar's the credited writer, along with one other name of some guy who pitched it. But it went through like the classic TNG writers room, just like 5 or 6 writers on it. Michael Pillar was the last one to kind of clean it up. Joe Menosky had the idea of adding the biosphere, and they kind of originally it was going to be just a bunch of like straight augments. They all looked the same. Then they kind of came up with the idea for the specific roles everybody had, and nothing really came of it. But I kind of dug that Winrich Kolbe, who's one of the most famous era directors of the 90s, he was like, I don't know if it was my fault or what, but the lead actor, John Snyder, who played Aaron Connor, was just bad. He just did a bad job. I don't know if it was my fault or what. And I was like, yeah, the guy just wasn't engaging in any way. But the guy's a good actor because I had no idea he played Centurion Bakra in The Enemy. And I mentioned before Stephen Rankin, he was the other guy in The Enemy, the other Romulan. So they were together. And Day Young, of course, is Hannah Bates, the woman that was working with Geordi on the trying to fix their shields. And of course, Ron Canada is in this as well. So he's great. So there's a lot of great pieces to this, but man, it's just one of those weird, mediocre, middle of the road episodes. Alex, is this one mediocre enough?
This one's so borderline between being mediocre and being not good enough to be mediocre, because it's just it's like, for me, mediocre episodes are forgettable, but they're not this forgettable, right? Like you hit a level of forgettableness where it's just like, no, this is just bad now because nothing here is working in a memorable way. And like, Ron Canada's good. I guess it's nice that Troy gets a bit of something to do, but you're totally right. Our Winrich Kolbe is totally right about the lead.
John Snyder, the actor, man, he was bad.
Terrible in this episode, especially compared to like how amazing he was in The Enemy. He was so bad in this one, and Ron Canada's Ron Canada, but everybody else in the Masterpiece Society just it is so wooden and boring. And yeah, this one's right on the borderline between mediocre and not good enough to be mediocre.
Okay, before you make your vote, so there was also a quote from Ron Moore who was like, he said, "Oh, so we're gonna have Troy involved. Oh, great. So she falls in love with the guy. I'm gonna go get a coffee." That was literally his quote.
Yeah.
So, all right, Alex, what's your vote? You guys?
Not good enough.
Not good enough. Okay, Dana, what's your pick?
For this, trying to think, it's been a long time since I've seen it. So I can't remember much about it. So I'm going to say it's just mediocre enough.
Okay, I like it. So, all right, we have another tiebreaker. Matt, tiebreaker again.
Sorry.
Oh no. I'm gonna say not mediocre enough. I'm gonna say it falls below the threshold for mediocre. But yeah, it just very forgettable. And yeah, the Deanna storyline, yeah.
It's not great. It's not great. And then she has to go like apologize to Picard and stuff. It's like,
God.
I really didn't like that part. But
yeah,
anyway,
I'm gonna say below mediocre, but it has Ron Canada, and I love saying Ron Canada.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
No, he's fantastic. He's one of my favorite character actors.
Oh, he's amazing. So many great Trek roles, including Rules of Engagement and Juggernaut in Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
And yet this is his worst.
And yet this is definitely his worst. This is not close. Okay, here we go. Round 2. Remember, people, this is a celebration of mediocrity. Round 2. Alex, what do you got?
5-word summary. Patrick is my spirit animal. # math is hard. This is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 9, Statistical Probabilities.
Oh, that Patrick.
That Patrick. And I personally also really like this episode.
This is too good.
This one.
This is way too good.
Okay,
I agree.
I have no idea why this fell in the middle of the IMDb rankings, because there's not where I would put it. But I could see why. I like, making the sort of straw man case for why it falls right in the middle. and not higher on the list. Some of the genetically augmented characters are like Jack's annoying. Lauren is one note. They're all pretty one note, and like over the course of 45 minutes, I think you could make the case that gets a little bit wearing. Also, nothing particularly happens in this episode, which I think does seem to be one of the like through line pieces of what qualifies a mediocre episode of Star Trek, one in which not a ton happens. I mean, there's lots of talk of very big things about the war ending and, treason and all of that stuff. But like ultimately, you don't really get any of that, but it is fun to do the like it's a fun another little pause moment after the sort of big episodes of that preceded it in season 6 with the Taking Back Deep Space Nine and then the big wedding episode, and then you get this one. I really like statistical probabilities, but yeah, according to IMDb, right in the middle of the pack.
That's a stupid mediocre. Dana, what's your take on this
really
one?
like this episode.
I do too.
It's a breather. It's fun. It's not too serious, and it's like, yeah, they're a bit one note, but they play off each other really, really well. And Bashir is great in it, and it's I don't think it's mediocre at all.
Agreed.
It's definitely memorable.
For sure. Matt, any other take?
I have to agree 100% with my wife again. No, I love this episode. I agree the augment characters could be perceived as one note, but I don't know. I found them kind of endearing. Even Jack. I don't know. I kind of liked his twisted, quirky personality. Maybe I wouldn't want to hang out with him in real life, but it's I enjoyed watching him on Deep Space Nine. And yeah, and all of their interactions with Bashir were great. I think they all played off of each other and him quite nicely. And yeah, I liked the concept of this episode and how it kind of related to the larger Dominion War arc.
That's where this episode really soars. That stuff's really good with Ducat and Wayne.
Oh yeah,
and they went kind of deep there on this stuff.
And so this is where the series quality piece comes into it, because this is where my Prime Directive really does fall apart, because these are the 9 other median episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Okay.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
The Quickening, Who Mourns for Morn, Emissary, Till Death Do Us Part, Nor the Battle to the Strong, Blaze of Glory, Cardassians, An Image in the Sand. And I'm like, I don't necessarily know that any of those are mediocre episodes of Star Trek.
I have great episodes there.
Every single one of them.
2 of those. I might have 2 of those as mediocre.
Yeah.
This is why I had to go with vibes instead of math.
Yeah.
I had to throw math out the window.
Well said. All right, Dan.
Oh, and Tribunal. Sorry, I missed one. Tribunal. Also a great episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Well, they all are.
Accurate.
Who came up with this dumb topic? Dana, what is your number 2 pick?
All right, I'm scared of this one.
Oh no.
Okay, 5 words. Miles O'Brien versus the Balrock. #, do I annoy you? And it's Deep Space Nine, the storyteller, which IMDb rank is 167.
Oh,
you're destined to not have any mediocre picks, because this is so far all yours are too good, and this one's going to be too bad.
But this episode is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's absolutely terrible, but the Bashir and O'Brien bits are just some of my favorite. They play off each other great, and O'Brien is like just doesn't want to be there, and he's like, let's really focus and send this one out. It's just a ridiculous episode, but it stuck in my head, but it's not great.
Well, you do get
the Bajoran ambassador.
Yeah,
yes,
right. What's her name?
The girl.
About Varys. She's
again,
great.
it's like with Matt said a little bit ago, where half of this episode I like and the other half I don't really like.
I love the Varys Soul stuff. Right?
See, I'm the opposite. I love the Bashir.
Oh, you don't like that? Okay.
Yeah.
I just like when Varys Soul throws the water on Quark. I am not a little girl. Okay, the storyteller. Okay, the storyteller. Alex, too good, mediocre, or not good enough?
Not good enough.
Yeah, that would be my vote as well. here's where this it's so funny because this is like one of our first Bajoran experiences, and it makes like if this had been on like some other planet, not Bajor, it would kind of make some sense. It makes Bajor look like this kind of like I don't even know the right terminal. I don't even know if I want to get into
it wasn't
this.
until I rewatched this episode that I realized that it was on Bajor. I thought it was a planet in the Gamma Quadrant.
Bajor has smoke monsters and like people that live in villages with no electricity. I mean, this
that's
is
where
weird.
Lost took place on Bajor.
So, okay, doesn't quite fit the whole thing, but hey, I love it. Any other take on the storyteller?
The Bashir and O'Brien stuff is fun,
and the fact that there's now characters on Prodigy named Dal and Rock. The Dal Rock.
The Dal Rock.
The Dal Rock. Too good. Too good. All right. Oh, I can't wait for Dana's first pick to see if she gets the mediocre trifecta or whatever we're gonna call it. Okay, Matt, what is your round 2 pick?
Well, they say great minds think alike, and my 5 words are who will tell the story? # once upon a time. It's the storyteller.
No way!
That was absolutely not planned. I did not know that we were both going to put the storyteller on, nor that we were both going to have it as our number 2 pick. But yes,
this is too good. All right, so we are going to talk more about Varys Soul. Okay,
yes, we are.
Let's go.
This was for me at least a classic mediocre episode. I felt lots of it's an episode that I grew to love. I really enjoy rewatching it. But even when I do now, I still feel lots of cringe throughout it, both from the A plot and the B plot. And I was trying to think of why, and I think it might have something to do with knowing what comes later in Deep Space Nine and kind of seeing more immature versions of relationships that would go on to be further developed, like Jake and Nog and O'Brien and Bashir. And for me, it was the Jake and Nog storyline that didn't particularly work as well for me in this episode, and both of them would go on to become way more compelling and fleshed out characters later on in the series, both individually and together. But the O'Brien Bashir stuff with the Dal'Rok and the village of weird Bajorans, I loved all that, even though it made me cringe, just because my favorite. It's a lot of fun. My favorite part of this episode is watching Julian just be an absolute shit at O'Brien's misfortune, and he's just having the best time, watching him having to put up with these Bajoran, country bumpkins. And I liked, we're kind of seeing this is the episode where we're seeing like the very first inklings of their friendship starting to blossom, and their relationship dynamic. And also on the O'Brien must suffer sliding scale of O'Brien must suffer episodes.
This is pretty low.
He gets off pretty light in this episode.
Yeah.
Just some mild annoyance.
Some mild public speaking.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like Dana said, seeing him up there like, once upon a time there was a Dal'Rok.
It's pretty good.
Mediocre episode, but I love going back to rewatch this one.
Yeah.
I do find myself rewatching this one for all those reasons. So there is something to be said about that. I really, really good defense of this. My favorite thing about this right now is that you guys picked this back to back, and yet as mediocre episodes, and yet Alex and I still have the voting block to shut you guys down on this so that it's not good enough. So
this is a democracy.
Oh man.
Rejected.
So okay. Let's close out round 2. DS9 round on round 2, except I'm gonna ruin it now with my number 2 pick, not Deep Space Nine. This is the first time this pick has ever been picked on TrekRanks. And I didn't look this up. I did not realize that until after I picked it here. So I looked these up afterwards. 5 words in a hashtag. Oh, so I have to sound the gong. Here we go. There's the gong. First time ever picked. 5 words in a hashtag. diagnostic tool, not an engineer. Hashtag delete the diva. Voyager season 3, episode 4, The Swarm. And man, The Swarm, I think right now you guys are going, I don't even know what this episode is. What is this episode even about? Every time I think of The Swarm, that's what I think. Like, it's an enigma, this episode. I can never remember what it is. There's all these like disparate pieces of this episode. And when it feels like when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, it's this episode. Oh, this happens in this episode. Oh yeah, that alien that looks like a clown shows up in this episode. Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Lewis Zimmerman's in this episode. Oh, my God. I had no idea. This is one of his episodes every time. So this is the episode where the doctor starts losing his memory because he's been on too long, and it's all kinds of issues with his memory core. But at the same time, there's these aliens that are attacking the ship, and they're like the Swarm. I guess that's the Swarm part of this, which is kind of a weird name because this episode's really about the Doctor and all his stuff, which I have no idea why it's called the Swarm, because that's really not the A story on this, even though it kind of is, but it really shouldn't be. And it's weird. And then the Doctor's singing with the diva, and he starts losing his memory, and Kess is the one fixing this problem because she's meeting with Lewis Zimmerman, and they figure out to graft him onto the Doctor, and it's really strange. Lots of weird stuff happening, and then the Swarm ships are like attaching themselves, and they need to cross the space, and Janeway figures something out, and Neelix is worried. There's all kinds of stuff happening. And the one thing I'll say, and this is cool, I did not know this till I looked this up. This is the first writing credit for Michael Sussman. He had a story credit a year earlier on Meld, which is pretty cool that that's his first story credit. I had no idea about that. But it's his first writing credit for Michael Sussman, who's a Trek legend. So The Swarm, Alex, what's your take on The Swarm? What's your memory of this, and is it mediocre enough?
I feel exactly the same way about this episode. Every time, I've probably seen it, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and every time I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one where the things attach themselves to the ship, and then that's all I remember about the episode. And then we go into the episode, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the Doctor one memory falling apart, but it's not projections. And it's this one, but it's not that one. And yeah, like this is a mediocre episode of Star Trek. It's fine. It's fine, but it's fine.
And then every time Lewis Zimmerman shows up, I'm like, oh yeah, it's another Lewis Zimmerman episode. I didn't even remember this one. Dana, what's your take?
I think this one is pretty mediocre. Like as far as Doctor episodes go, this one's not the greatest, but it's also not the worst. So it's in the middle for me. Okay. Kind of forgettable, but not. If I watched it today, it's not. I wouldn't be upset.
Sounds completely innocuous. Matt?
Yeah, definitely mediocre. I have no strong feelings about this episode, kind of one way or the other. I think it contains a lot of elements, plot elements and theme elements that were kind of done better in other episodes, like the Lewis Zimmerman stuff, like a lot of the Doctor personality stuff. So yeah, I would agree with the house on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary too. There's a lot, some weird elements. Oh, I do like the ending though. The ending has become more impactful for me, where they
when he starts humming the tune.
Yeah, they reset the Doctor, and they think he can't remember who she is, but then he starts humming, and they realize his memory is slowly coming back. So, okay, round 1, we're doing it. Here we go.
Begin round 1.
Alex, what's your number 1 mediocre episode of Trek?
5-word summary: Jeffrey Combs and Ethan Phillips # blue underwear forever. This is Star Trek Enterprise Season 1, Episode 19, Acquisition, which I really enjoy, actually, but is by no means anybody's favorite episode of Star Trek Enterprise. Like, this feels like it really is a mediocre episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that I really enjoy about this episode. It's got Jeffrey Combs giving an interesting and different Ferengi take than he's done before. Ethan Phillips really leaning into being, the like ruthless Ferengi. You've got the energy whips. Love me, an energy whip. This episode is really the first where it sort of like solidifies the like blue underwear thing that is an Enterprise thing, and there's some problematic elements, and it's like the fact that they went to the Ferengi in season 1 of Enterprise, and then it was like, well, the reason that it's not an issue in the Next Generation is because they never asked what their name was. That's dumb, but despite all the dumbness, there's a lot to enjoy. Like, I really like the scenes between Archer and Jeffrey Combs' Ferengi character, when he's like turning him. I really like Ethan Phillips' scenery chewing performance.
I'll show you where the vault is, if you let me keep half the gold. Gold's pressed platinum. Gold bars. Hundreds of them. But I keep half. 10%. 40. 15. 35. And not a bar less. You'll never find the vault without my help. 20% final offer. No deal.
So acquisition, mediocre episode, but one that I really enjoy.
I'm with you. This feels like a right down the middle of the road mediocre episode of Enterprise. And by the way, you said this before, this is one I really didn't like a lot. And I think we talked about it on an episode of TrekRanks way back when. And
I think I've picked this one before. Maybe Enterprise Guilty Pleasures.
Yeah, maybe. And I have come around on this episode. I do appreciate it more now. So you turned me around on this one a little bit. And I do find this right in that Goldilocks sweet spot for mediocre. Dana, what's your take?
I almost picked this one. I decided it's maybe a little bit too good, but I don't know if it's good enough to be too good.
Right.
But
right.
It's a fun episode. Like, I'll rewatch this one kind of randomly if I ever need something on the TV. And it's just Jeffrey Combs is always great. And like, it was a weird explanation for why the Ferengi were on there, but I'm okay with it. But it was a weird choice.
Plus, I mean, and Matt mentioned before, we get Ethan Phillips and we get Clint Howard as a Ferengi, which is fantastic.
Oh, Clint Howard, of course, yes.
So they made the episode for sure.
So much fun, those guys, no doubt. Matt, what's your take on Acquisition?
Oh yeah, I agree. Mediocre episode overall, but there were so many little elements about it that I did love. Like that you've got Ethan Phillips, Clint Howard, and Jeffrey Combs is my absolute favorite, all playing Ferengis.
Yeah. Clint Howard playing a Ferengi.
Clint Howard playing a Ferengi. How could you not? Good. How could you not love that?
So good.
Yeah. And just another little like. Was this considered a bottle episode? Does it take place entirely on the ship?
Yes. Well, they've got like
Ferengi set. But...
but it's tiny.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I like this one.
And Trip in his blue underwear.
So what's not to love?
And Trip in his blue underwear. Exactly.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Okay. Dana, what's your number one pick?
Okay. So 5 words. It doesn't even look real. #Shatner mustache, and it's Operation Annihilate, the original series.
Mediocre.
Number 32. So my reasoning for this is it's not a great episode, but this is the first ever episode of Star Trek I've ever seen because it was on TV and my mom forced me to watch it. And I bet she regrets it because look at me now.
Good for her.
Yes. So I was like 8 years old, 7 years old or something. And I watched this weird episode with these flying brain cells attaching to this weird guy with pointy ears and a odd haircut. And for whatever reason, that spoke to me as a 7-year-old girl, and I was obsessed. So this is a weird episode. It's not a great episode. It's not a terrible episode, but it's a very special episode to me. And I love that. It took me like years to realize this, but Sam Kirk is played by William Shatner in a mustache. And I think that's the most hilarious thing And then we have Sam Kirk now in Strange New Worlds, and that's the most random thing ever, but he's great. So it's a great episode, but it's also mediocre.
I love this. It's perfect mediocre pick. This is like right. I mean, my God, this is like the perfect TOS
Yep.
mediocre mid-level
Definitely.
episode pick. It's not even a debate. And I like this. I like this. I mean, this is why I would never pick a TOS episode, because I love this episode. It's great. My only issue with this episode has always been the actress who does who's Sam Kirk's wife. Her screaming, it kills me. It's like it's too real, because it pierces into my soul, and I literally have to mute it, because it's just too, I don't know, it's like just burrows into my brain. It's amazing. But yeah, this is classic TOS. I love it. I almost can't. I can't even say the words because nothing's mediocre in TOS. So, Alex, I'm assuming you're good with this. Yeah.
Oh yes, this is. Nobody does mediocre season finales quite like TOS.
I always forget that. Yeah. I mean, this is like episode 30.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they are
finale.
tired by the end of this one.
Classic. Matt, any take?
Yeah, I agree with what Dan has said. And now that Sam Kirk is on Strange New Worlds, I want somehow someone to warn him that he's going to get killed by a giant flying brain cell.
Oh, too soon, man. Too soon. That's gonna be harsh.
I know.
Oh, it's gonna be harsh.
But I love it. I love his mustache.
Okay, Matt, what's your number one pick?
Number one pick. Okay. Again, I'm a little worried about this one, but here we go. 5 words. Life is but a dream. # go climb a rock. And my number one pick, because we're counting the movies, is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
Fantastic! All right, I'm into this. I don't know how I'm voting yet, but I'm into this. So let's hear about it.
Okay. Well, I'll explain my reasoning. I think this movie isn't helped by the fact that it's sandwiched between my favorite Star Trek film, The Voyage Home, and The Undiscovered Country, which has its own problems, but is I think a fascinating allegory of the end of the Cold War. So it was very timely at the time, and I think Undiscovered Country is a fantastic movie. Star Trek V, I love it. I've grown to love it more upon the more repeated viewings, and I think it's experiencing maybe a little bit of a renaissance in the Trek community right now. But it feels very half-baked in a lot of ways. It suffers a lot from subpar VFX, which has been talked about a lot, but ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, were unavailable to do the special effects for this film, because I think they were busy working on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It might have been that. It might have been something else, but they had to go with a second tier VFX house to do this, and it really shows, and the movie really suffers for it. It feels very slapdash in areas. But all that being said, it has some really great stuff in it that I love. Being any and all interactions between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in this film are absolutely top tier, because the one thing that Shatner understood was the relationship dynamic between those 3 characters, and that they were at the very core of his incarnation of Star Trek, the original series. So he got all of the Kirk, Spock, McCoy stuff absolutely right. I think Star Trek V contains, some of my favorite Kirk, Spock, McCoy lines of dialogue. There's the campfire scene just by itself. I have such a warm feeling inside whenever that plays. Just seeing those 3 characters, they're not on a spaceship, they're not in a battle with Klingons, they're sitting around a campfire, and I think it's just some of the best Star Trek out there. But then there's other elements of the film. I think the exploration of faith and religion in Star Trek, I think, was handled a lot better on Deep Space Nine. and there was a lot of stuff that felt like Shatner kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, and like pulling ideas from other media that was popular at the time, like Paradise City. Like, felt like he wanted to do a Tatooine planet. Let's do Tatooine in a Star Trek movie. And also compared with Commander Krug in Star Trek 3 and General Chang in Star Trek 6. Captain Claw is just such a one-dimensional secondary villain. I'm not particularly fond of him. But yeah, it has a lot of great things that I love, and it holds up on repeated viewings. Like I said, I think it's going through a little bit of a renaissance right now in people's minds, and yeah, it's mediocre, but also still great.
Okay, excellent defense of the Final Frontier. By the way, he was going for the Thunderdome, not Tatooine, and it just failed miserably. Paradise City. Oh man, Paradise City just is a hot mess. Okay, yeah. So Final Frontier, I think people know it's pretty low on my overall Star Trek enjoyment scale. So I am gonna vote again. I'm not swaying the jury. I am voting not. This is not good enough to be considered mediocre, but I love this pick because I love that a film has been picked, and I love that it fits your Prime Directive because it is right in the middle of two classics, right? So I love that, and there are so many great elements. I mean, I love all the campfire stuff. The Kirk, Spock, McCoy stuff is awesome.
Just that all of McCoy's dialogue in this film,
McCoy is.
If you want to punish him, why don't you throw him in the brig?
Yeah, McCoy's awesome.
God damn irresponsible. Playing games with life.
But then we get into the Scotty and the Uhura stuff. It's really poor. It's really.
Why do they always feel like they have to pair Uhura up with somebody? Like one of the it never works.
It's hard. Alex, what's your take and what's your vote?
On the continuum of all Star Trek, the worst Star Trek movie is mediocre, and therefore, as the worst Star Trek movie, The Final Frontier is mediocre.
Okay,
thank you.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
So that puts Dana in the tiebreaker seat.
Yeah, I think it's mediocre. I love it, and also compared to the other movies, the other ones are a little bit better, or a lot better.
I would say a lot better.
But it's a special, again, this one kind of holds a special place in my heart as well. It's always fun to rewatch, and the character moments are really what make it. So it's like a 50-50 thing. So I would say just mediocre enough.
Perfect.
And it has the line, "What does God need with a starship?"
Yes, so you can't go wrong there.
That's classic.
It is classic indeed. That is a fantastic pick. I love it. This first round has been awesome. All right, my pick. All right, we'll see where you guys vote. I think this could be interesting. For me, it is defining excellence in mid-level mediocrity. My number one pick, 5 words and a hashtag. Deceptive division diminishes Delta duty. Hashtag 1x1 invasion. I'm picking Voyager again, season 3, episode 24, Displaced.
Ooh.
Not an episode that's going to be on anyone's top 10 or probably top 50, but just good, solid, middle of the road, fun, solid, mediocre Voyager romp, an invasion of 1x1 transport replacement, those sneaky Nerians. Just a fun little mystery. They're showing up 1x1. There's some cool performances. I really like the set design of the alien ship in this episode. I really like there's a lot of really good production design with the alien environment and the encounters. They were on a bio ship, which is similar to the Masterpiece Society, and that's more of a bio encounter. And then I don't know. I like the alien that shows up. The guy who kind of comes into their encounter with his spiky Cardassian makeup. It's just an innocuous, cool little mediocre episode of Star Trek written by Lisa Klink. And curiously, I looked this up. it's been picked one time previously on Star Trek, and it was picked by me on the episodes that feel like TOS. And I remember basically the reason I picked it is I think it's mostly because of those aliens' hats. Because they look so much like TOS. So
a lot of great hats on TOS.
Yeah, no doubt. And the Nerians have TOS type hats. So Displaced, is it mediocre enough or not, Alex?
Oh, this one's borderline too good for me. I like this one.
That's what I was thinking.
But do I like it enough for it not to be mediocre?
What's your vote gonna be?
I think I'm gonna go. Benefit of the doubt, sucking up to the boss. I'll say mediocre.
That's the opposite. Sucking up to the boss. This should be too good to be sucking up to the boss. Dana, what's your vote?
I think this one is on the high end of mediocre, but still mediocre.
Okay.
I like this one.
That's why I picked it.
It's a good mystery. Yeah.
That's why I introduced it with defining excellence in mid-level mediocrity. Matt.
This is what I was saying at the beginning, is that if it's your top 5, if it's your top mediocre episode, is it still considered mediocre?
Exactly. That's why
Does it rise above mediocre just because it holds the number 1 spot? Yeah, I agree. Mediocre, but on the upper end of mediocre.
Amazing. All right, incredible. What an incredible amount. I love this topic. It's too much fun. All right, let's get into some quick secondary systems. Alex, what's on your list that we haven't talked about?
Let's see what you can do with the secondary system.
All right, here's some other pretty good, pretty mediocre episodes that were in my ones to pick.
We're gonna do speed round. Everyone's just gonna shout out too good, Goldilocks, too good, mediocre, too good. Okay.
The Neutral Zone.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
Birthright Part 2.
Too good.
Day of Honor.
Way too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, way too good.
Prime Factors.
Yeah, mediocre.
Repentance.
Mediocre.
No, too good. I've really come around on that one. It's a great episode, actually. Repentance is really good. Sorry, keep going.
Stigma.
Oh, way too good.
Too good.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, way too good.
Yeah, way too good.
Children of the Comet.
Oh, way too good.
Oh, what are you talking about? I love that one.
Penance.
Oh, Jesus, way too good. Penance is like
these are the ones falling in the middle. So this will.
You're gonna have to stop reading these.
I know this. Well, I'll give you the worst. In my opinion, the worst of the worst in the Star Trek Discovery rankings, falling right in the middle from season 5. Face the Strange.
Oh my God!
What? No.
Stop reading
Season
your
5
list.
has been great.
No,
stop reading your list. That's ridiculous.
I'm done. Now we're in the stupid ones.
All right, Dana, let's hear yours.
All right, Time and Again.
Oh, that mediocre.
Too bad.
I want to say no. I want to say too good. It's too good.
Enough. Not good enough. Terrible Child. We thought about this on Trek.
Candy corn uniforms. Go.
One Little Ship.
Too good.
Oh, too good.
Well, my reasoning for that was that it was in between better episodes. But
yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it follows Far Beyond the Stars. So
yeah, having those two too close to each other.
Yeah. The Royale.
Mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre.
Terra Nova.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
Spectre of the Gun.
Oh,
mediocre.
Mediocre. Too good. It's too good.
Mediocre. There are some mediocre TOS episodes.
Nope. Too good. Too good.
Live Fast and Prosper.
Too good.
Too good.
Mediocre.
The Magnificent Ferengi.
That's way too good. No.
Way too good.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, that was great. Shore Leave.
Too good.
Yeah, mediocre.
Next.
Okay, and Acquisition.
Oh yeah, we did that.
So that one was
Goldilocks. That's perfect. Okay, this is way too much fun, Matt. Go.
Oh dear. Okay, I also had the Royale.
Okay.
Yep. Mediocre.
I wrestled with this one so much, but I had TNG A Matter of Time.
Oh, that's too good, I think.
Too good, but that's just because it was the first episode I ever watched.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go too good. Yeah.
It ended up being too good for me. Matt Frewer is my second favorite character actor of all time after Jeffrey Combs.
I thought you were gonna say second favorite Canadian, but go.
Oh, he is.
Okay.
After Dana, yeah, he is.
Okay.
The House of Quark.
Too good.
Yeah.
The Alternative Factor.
Too bad. Not good enough.
Yeah.
Not
Nowhere near good enough.
No way.
Nowhere near good enough.
That only TOS one I would.
Okay. I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do I have the Q and the gray in here? That one's terrible.
No, not good enough.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
No.
Mediocre.
Not good enough.
I agree. Mediocre.
Mediocre? You agree?
Yeah,
okay.
Not good enough.
And for films, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Too bad.
I'm gonna go mediocre.
The worst Star Trek film is mediocre.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, I have 6 more from the 90s era sweet spot.
Okay.
Sons and Daughters.
No, too good because it's part of the.
Yeah.
That's
why I didn't pick
the arc. Yeah.
Second Sight.
Let there be light.
Let there be light.
Too bad. Not good enough.
Yeah, not good enough.
All right.
I'm gonna say mediocre.
I've grown to love that one. TNG Liaisons.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
Mediocre.
Okay.
Mediocre. Why
more.
don't you love me?
3 more from.
I changed my mind. It's bad.
3 more from Voyager. The Shoot.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Mediocre.
No, that
Okay.
one's too good.
All right. Twisted.
That's mediocre.
Not bad. Not good enough.
Okay.
Twisted is bad.
And Emanations.
These are hard.
Yeah.
Bad. Too bad.
No, it's mediocre. It's
enough.
pretty good. Emanations, rewatch it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Oh,
Okay.
no, this one's not good enough, I think.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Way too much fun, you guys. Oh my God, I could do that all day. All right, let's get into our regeneration cycle. We're going to go through some stats and quick recap of our picks.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, let's run through our picks. Alex, recap your picks.
Star Trek Prodigy, Asylum, number 5. Number 4, Star Trek Voyager, the 37s. Number 3, Star Trek The Next Generation, True Q. Number 2, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Statistical Probabilities. And number 1, Star Trek Enterprise Acquisition.
Okay, 5 different incarnations. You had the only pick outside of the classic Trek. You had 1 from Prodigy, 1 from TNG, 1 from Deep Space Nine, 1 from Voyager and Enterprise. And you had 3 Goldilocks picks and 2 that were too good. Dana.
All right. Number 5, Disaster from Next Generation. Number 4, Workforce from Voyager. Number 3, Observer Effect from Enterprise. Number 2, The Storyteller from Deep Space Nine. And number 1, Operation Annihilate from the original series.
Awesome. You also had 5 different incarnations. So 1 each from TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. And then you had 3 that were too good, 1 that was not good enough, and 1 in the Goldilocks section. Okay, Matt, break it down.
All right. Number 5, Samaritan Snare from TNG. Number 4, False Prophets from Voyager. Feel embarrassed about that one. Number 3, 2 Days and 2 Nights, Enterprise. Number 2, also The Storyteller, Deep Space Nine. And number 1, the movie Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
But you also had 5 different incarnations. Incredible. So you had TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, just like your wife. Incredible. So you had 3 in the Goldilocks section and 2 that were not good enough. So you did not have any that were too good. Okay.
All right.
All right. And my picks, I had at number 5, Deep Space Nine, Invasive Procedures. Number 4, Voyager's Random Thoughts. Number 3, from TNG, The Masterpiece Society. Number 2, Voyager's The Swarm. And number 1 from Voyager, Display. So I had 3 from Voyager, 1 from TNG, and 1 from Deep Space Nine. And I had 4 in the Goldilocks zone and 1 that was not good enough. Not good enough. Okay, so the stat breakdown. We had 1 duplicate. the storyteller. And we had one episode from the new era of Trek, Prodigy. Everything else from the classic era. That breakdown was 2 from TOS, 3 from Enterprise, 4 from TNG, 4 from Deep Space Nine, and 6 from Voyager. So pretty evenly spread around there. There was 1 film picked, and then our breakdown of not good enough, mediocre, and too good. We had 4 picks that were not good enough, 5 picks that were too good, and 11 right in that middle mediocre Goldilocks zone. Well done. Incredible. That was way too much fun. I knew this topic was going to be fantastic. All right, we're going to initiate a temporal inversion now because it's time to hear from you.
Initiate temporal inversion.
Initiating.
And for this week's temporal inversion, we are going back to episode 180 in our top 5 final adventures, which was our episode that previewed the great final adventure season of Star Trek Discovery. And we got in one fantastic complete list from our friend Chris Chaplin over at the First Flight podcast at Shelf Nerds. Awesome list. I'm going to read the whole thing here really quick. It's really good. Number 5, last second purchases many more. Hashtag Garrett, you can act. And that is from Timeless, and that's Chakotay and Harry stealing the Delta Flyer and the Borg technology for one last adventure to save the Voyager crew. So I love that. Timeless final adventure. Number 4. Oh, we just talked about it. How does this always happen? From Star Trek V, The Final Adventure, Cybok steals the Enterprise for a quest to find God. That's a final adventure hard to top. Go big or don't go. Hashtag Shakari. Number 3, Quinn goes on a final adventure to secure his right to end his life. This is from Death Wish, from Big Bang to Ornament. Hashtag final gift to my people. Number 2, this is Q using his last of his life energy to send Picard and crew to their final to send them home at the end of Farewell. Even gods have favorites, John Luke, not alone. I love that. And then from yesterday's Enterprise, the crew of the Enterprise C taking their one final heroic adventure through the portal to save the future. One ship makes a difference. Hashtag Narenda 3. Awesome list from Chris. Good stuff. All right. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal inversion. So as always, want to thank everyone for all your great responses to the Trek Ranks podcast. Keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them, but we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 mediocre episodes or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 757-828-7265. That's 757-828-RANK, or just record it on your computer and you can send us a DM. We can hook up that way. All right, so hopefully we will hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of Trek Ranks. And on the next episode of Trek Ranks, we are finally doing it. We have talked about it recently on Trek Ranks. This one I've been planning for a long time. It's going to be a massive show. Next week's topic, this is the official title. It's episode 188. It's the top 5 psychic transfers, or Faltor Pandemonium. That is the topic. So Alex, Dana, and Matt, we are doing psychic transfers. There are all kinds of psychic transfers in Star Trek where someone's consciousness is moved or transplanted into another person or thing or whatever. Lots of cool, straightforward examples of this. Also some crazy, insane, bonkers examples of this across Star Trek over the last 58 years. It's Faltor Pandemonium time. So, Alex, if you could think of one psychic transfer off the top of your head, what would it be? Go.
In the spirit of this week's episode, I'm going to give you the most mediocre one, and that is from Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, The Crossing.
The Crossing. Lots of psychic transfers there. Yes.
And a mediocre episode of Star Trek.
It's like a wisp. It's like a wisp. Okay. The Crossing. I don't think that's going to come up on our
I hope it's not going to get big next week.
Dana, What do you got?
I have to go with Spock and T'Pring in Strange New Worlds.
Yes, Spock Amok. Perfect. the best Freaky Friday ever. Yep. Awesome. Okay, 2 great picks. Matt, pressure's on. Psychic Transfer. What do you got?
This is why she and I are married, because I was also going to pick Spock Amok. Because that was an amazing, hilarious episode, and I loved it. And great minds think alike.
Way too much fun. That's right there in that Faltor pandemonium area. Okay, I'm going to keep saying that because it's so great.
Channel closed. Reset. Subspace communication. Scrambler code. Riker 1.
All right. Scrambler code. Riker 1 acknowledged. All right. Let's close this episode out with a huge thanks to Alex Perry, Dana Kenedy, and Matt Finbow. Incredible having you all on the show. Any final Trek Scrambler codes any of you want to relay before we depart? Alex.
Thank you, Jim. This was not a mediocre experience.
No, it was excellent. Everyone listened to Weekly Trek. Dana.
Even mediocre Trek is good Trek, so this was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
Yes. A celebration of mediocre awesomeness. Matt, awesome having you back on.
It's been great being back on. Hope to come back again soon. And yeah, like they said, mediocre Trek is still good Trek. And the fact that Dana and I both put the storyteller at number 2 makes me so happy.
And the fact that Alex and I both vetoed it makes it even better. I love it. All right. Thanks, everyone, for engaging with us here on episode 187. You know what soundbite's coming up, people. You know what's coming up. Of the TrekRanks podcast, as always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
The village shall not be destroyed.
Despite our fears, we shall stand our ground and face the Dal'Rok.
Despite our fears, we shall stand our ground and face the Dal'Rok. The village is strong, more powerful than the Dal'Rok. Together, we use that power to drive it away. The Dal'Rok is defeated. The village is safe.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Bad news, gentlemen. Shorely's been cancelled.
Rescued at last.
Return to prearranged coordinates for pickup.
Don't tell them you're lost. You'll never leave it down.
Is there a problem, gentlemen?
Yes. We've been caught in a blizzard.
And we can't see a thing. Request you direct us to the coordinates.
My visual says sunny skies and 70 degrees.
Sulu, look. The sun's come out. It's a miracle.
Don't worry, fellas. Your secret's safe with me.